Oh, this is John Black, Superchemist. If you want to look at these play videos all in a row, because this is part of a playlist. I think it's part 18 or something like that. But anyways, the playlist, if you want to watch more in a row, is called All I Know About Submissive Wives slash marriage slash family. So, last time we were talking about why women like egalitarian systems and men like hierarchical systems. And if you go to my matriarchy versus patriarchy playlist, it'll tell you about how egalitarian systems just do not work. They're stupid. They're idiotic. Okay, just like a direct democracy is stupid and idiotic. That's why we have a representative democracy called a republic, a type of democracy. Because the direct democracy or egalitarian democracy does not work. When you have them, someone with a hierarchy society will come in and kill your egalitarian system, because egalitarian systems are too slow. They can't function during a war. Okay, and so the hierarchy countries will know this, because they're not stupid enough to be egalitarian. They just come in and take over. That's why egalitarian things don't work, because people aren't stupid. The men are hierarchy. They're going to just come in and take over your slow-ass war machine. Their war machine is efficient because it works on hierarchy. Your military works on egalitarianism. Yeah, that ain't going to work. When no one's in charge, yeah, okay. That's literally idiocy, okay? So that's why men and women think differently, is because, and why women kind of act crazy is because they have, just imagine it, if you had two, because everyone knows that they have a good guy and a bad guy in there or whatever. The guy that wants to just smoke pot and whatever, and the guy, you always have an angel and a devil on your shoulder or whatever. Everyone knows that you have an internal fight between yourself to do stuff that's good for you, before you do stuff that's just you want to do for instant gratification. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about literally having two people in your head, okay? And doesn't this explain everything? Like, like why are women, they're going back and forth with stuff and, blah, blah, blah. It's because their hormones are going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. When they have a period, their hormones, again, are all out of whack. When they go through menopause, their hormones are way out of whack. We used to be able to just say that was just common sense back in the day. Everyone knows that. And what's funny is even these feminazis, if you're friends with them, like, no, obviously not on national TV, they're never going to admit it. But every woman I've ever talked to does admit that they know exactly what I'm talking about. At first, they're like, no, you're misogynist, you're this, you're that. You know what I mean? But when we literally sit down and talk about it, especially if you know the person, because then you can just rap off like 30 things where this has happened, where they've gone back and forth on what they are saying. Like one sentence, they'll be saying, I know that the sky is green. And then the very next sentence, they're like, no, the sky is blue. I don't know why anyone would say it was green. Anyone who says it's green is stupid. And then in the next sentence, yes, the sky is green. I've always thought that I've always said that. That's you know what I mean? You just name these examples to them. They're like, oh, yeah, I guess you're right. They all know. Everyone knows deep down. You know what I mean? They all admit it, too. Everyone admits it. All the women admit it. They all admit it. Not at first. Some of them do it first. But most, admit it sooner or later because facts are facts. All you have to do is look at your own life, woman, and you know that it's true. Every woman used to know this. And now, that little 5% of the women that are feminazis, they've infected the rest of them. You know what I mean? So, we've learned a lot about about female behavior and why you have to have these roles, okay? If you're not a good leader, you're not a fair leader, they will, your life is over, okay? They force you to be a good leader, because if you don't be a good leader, they won't be a good follower. Okay, they basically just do what you. If you're a good follower, leader, they'll be a good follower. If you're a bad leader, then they will be a bad follower. You could say, well, I got me a woman, and I was a good leader the whole time, and blah 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 blah. But she just won't let go of these feminazi ideas. See, there's where you just screwed up. Okay, you knew that she was a feminazi type person before you got with her. The second you knew that, you should have tested her, right? When you got into a relationship, before even marriage was mentioned, just to get into the relationship, you should have been having questions to ask her to see if she was a feminazi. And then that's what a good leader would do, right? You ask, you interview. You don't just say, oh, yeah, I like you and love you, and so I want to be your boyfriend. No. That's not a good leader. That's a child who follows his emotions. That's the easy thing to do. The hard thing is to give up someone that you really care about because you know they're no good. They're no good for you. That's being an adult. That's being a man. You know what I mean? I forgot what I was talking about again. But anyways, that's why, men like hierarchy, women like egalitarian systems. The only thing is that egalitarian systems suck, and they are doomed. Anyone who thinks, if you don't have a leader, then you don't have a follower. And if you don't have leaders and followers, then who's going to lead and who's going to follow? No one's going to do anything except argue, because everyone's going to want their own way. So here's where we're going to skip over to, change gears here, go off of the biology, the caveman stuff that we're talking about here, that make, survival by biomechanisms. And I'm going to just go to a couple things, like tips on how to act around women or be around women or whatever, just stupid little tips. Not great, they're not. It's not rocket science here, people. It's not rocket science, for God's sakes, okay? And this goes for women, too. You know what I mean? A woman has that, she doesn't know how to attract a man, okay? She thinks attracting a man is being rich and flaunting her career and her Gucci bag, okay? That's actually a turnoff, okay? That's the worst thing you could do, okay? But here's a thing here for men. Never look away, okay? Like if you are attracted to a woman, let's say you're at Walmart, right? You're in line, the woman looks back and you're checking her out, and then she turns around and now you're looking at each other. You got eye-to-eye contact. Most people will look away. No. If you're a dude and you're attracted to that woman, you don't look away. You make her look away, okay? And that doesn't mean that when she turns around, you're like you're playing a staring game to see who turns. Whereas when she, you know what I mean? You're staring at her, she turns around, you lock eyes, you might go like, give her a nod or and smile or whatever, that type of thing, to let her know that you aren't turning away. You are not a wuss. You are a man. You are a leader. You're not afraid of anything, okay? That's the number one step, is just when you do lock eyes with a woman, if you're not interested, then look away. But if you're interested, do not look away. Give her, just give her a smile. Give her a smile and nod, or nod, smile at the same time, and she see what she does. If she looks away, and then she's kind of like, you can tell if a woman is whatever at that point. Okay. Direct eye contact. And that doesn't mean stare at them the whole time in their eyes, man. It means give it, probably, let me see here. Probably 2/3 of the time, maybe half of the time, you should be staring straight at her eyes. You know what I mean? To let her know that you are, interested in what she's saying. You know what I mean? Even if you're not. You can't just be looking around all the time and always looking down at the ground talking to her. Yeah, this is my hobbies and this is that. No, I have a hobby doing this or doing that. You don't stare down or stare all over the place. But then again, you don't stare at her, the entire time. That makes a person uncomfortable if you never turn away. Most people turn away even when they're talking directly to someone, they'll be like, yeah, blah, 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 and, blah, 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 blah. Usually when they're in between talking and they're thinking for that couple seconds, you usually turn away. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I went over to my friend's house and and I'm staring this way at the person, right? I went to my friend's house, and then you're like, yeah, and then he, that's when you're thinking, you turn away. You know what I mean? You don't turn to them every time they're thinking and then talk. Like they're over here, and you're like, you turn away, and you're like, yeah, I went over to my friend's house, and then I went out. It seems like you're not even talking to them. You got to have some common sense here, okay? I mean, it's just about common sense, man. Another thing is never apologize. Never apologize. This is a weakness, and you just never do it. You know what I mean? And I'm going to give you some examples. Let's say you're late for a date or something. You know what I mean? And it's like, it's not like a minute or two. It's like 20 minutes or something. And she's like, man, what is your deal? Why did you come so late? I mean, why? I've been sitting here for 20 minutes. I've been blah, 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 blah. And the first reaction that you want to say is, oh, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have done that. Blah, 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 blah. No, that's the wrong approach, okay? The correct response be, thank you. I understand. I hear what you're saying. And next time, I will be on time. You never say you're sorry. You say, because saying you're sorry means that you're defeated. When you say, well, thanks for letting me know, that this is really a bad thing or whatever. I understand what you're saying. Now you're just taking information in, and you're using the information to make a decision. You know what I mean? You're not apologizing, or after she's done bitching. I see what you mean. I understand what you're saying. Yeah, that won't happen again. You know what I mean? Because of this, and that. That's the appropriate response, even if you're wrong. You know what I mean? Don't admit it. And it's not even that don't admit you're wrong. Just don't apologize. You can admit you're wrong without apologizing. You can be like, yeah, I understand what you're saying. Yeah, I was late 20 minutes. This will not happen again. You can do that without saying I'm sorry. You know what I mean? You can admit you're wrong and say you're going to change next time without apologizing. You see what I'm saying? You don't have to. This thing that you have to be mean to women, and it's not that they don't want. You don't have to be mean. You just have to be fair. That's it. Just have to be fair. That's great, because now you don't have to do anything that, like all this crazy crap, treating them like women and taking them for trips. $50,000 trips, you don't have to do any of that because they don't care about that. They say they care about it, but what they really care about is a good leader. And we know this because they will step over a good man to get to a bad leader. They will take that bad leader that gives them nothing. Well, she gives and gives and gives. She will take that bad leader over this guy over here who's perfect, giving her everything she wants. Why does she do that? Well, there's only one reason why. One's a good leader and one's a leader and one's not a leader at all. Like this guy's a simp over here. He's not a leader. He's not a good leader or a bad leader. He's not a leader at all. She's leading. You know what I mean? So that's why she steps over him, even though she gives him everything. But she doesn't give him one thing, leadership. Now what about this guy? He gives her nothing and takes and takes and takes and takes and takes. Why does he? There's only one reason. He's a leader. Yeah, he's a bad leader, but that's how much they want a leader. They would rather have a bad, horrible leader that doesn't do anything for them, and you give them everything, than this guy who gives you everything, because he's not a leader. So it doesn't matter how good he treats her. He ain't a leader. The one thing that she's asking for, he refuses to give her. So obviously she's going to treat him like shit, because she's only asking, just like a man. A man is only asking, a couple little things. If you can't do that, in the same way with women. Women are only asking for one damn thing. Be a goddamn fair, good leader. That's all you have to do. It's not some kind of rocket science. They're not asking for the world.